Hi, Delphine. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I see that you've written one book, quite the cover, in fact, Dark Obsessions. And it's an American Fiction Awards winner, too. Cool.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right. And I understand you live in North Carolina, and this is October 2024. There's been some hurricane action going on there, and we talked earlier, and you're doing okay, thank goodness.
Yes. I was one of the lucky ones that didn't come through Charlotte, so we were all good. But yeah, our neighbors to the west out in Asheville, they are suffering. So hopefully
Yeah.
things will
Yeah.
get back on track for
I've
them
been,
pretty soon. I know they're looking at years before at least a year before the roads get put back together. So
yeah.
it's
Uh,
pretty bad up there.
Yeah, I've been following the story. It's something else. Well, I live in Nova Scotia, and what we get is the tail end of the wind, so nothing like that. But we do feel a little bit of it once in a while, and
Oh,
so we do get it. It's not a big deal. Not as bad as some other people. But
yeah.
Delphine, before we talk about your book, I'd like to know more about you, who you are, perhaps what you do for a living, how you got to the point where you wrote this book, and if you have any plans for writing any more, you want to tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Delphine McClelland. I work at the NASCAR Hall of Fame here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the admissions assistant manager, so I handle all of the ticket sales in the front end of coming into the Hall of Fame. So getting ready to get geared up for all of our race fans that'll be coming in. And it was actually while working at the hall where I stumbled upon this crazy concept of writing a book. So I've always been an avid reader, even from the time when I was little. Reading has kind of always been my escape. So I got kind of really back into reading 10 years or so ago, or right around the time that my mom got sick. And when she passed away, that was my outlet and kind of how I dealt with that. And I was keeping my nieces and my nephews for a while. And when they ended up going to school, it was time for me to reclaim my life and get back into work. And so I ended up landing at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, where I actually met an actor his name is John Volstead. He's been in the New Heart series, so he was the other brother Daryl, the one who was the silent brother who didn't say much. He was the leprechaun in he was the pawnbroker in the movie Leprechaun that came back out in the early 90s with Jennifer Aniston. And so he took an interest in all of the books that I was reading at the time. And I guess the way I told the stories to him, he just come out of the blue one day and was like, "You
Oh,
should write a book." And I will admit that I full belly laughed because the idea of writing was ludicrous to me. It's like I'm a reader, I'm not a writer. I don't write, never thought about writing. And he probably I'd say about 6 months into every time he would see me, he would just, "You should write a book. You should write a book." And one day I had this idea for this crazy novel, Dark Obsessions. And so
really?
I
So
followed his lane and wrote a book.
that's interesting. I talk to a lot of authors. That's what the nature of this show is, and I ask them the question a little bit about yourself, some backstory. I come from my reality television editing days, and just about everybody says, "Well, I've always was writing short stories and poetries, and stuff." And here, someone says to you, "Oh, this character," which, by the way, I know the other Daryl. I remember that was a funny show. Um, that you should write a book. What possessed him to say that? Just because you were reading a lot of books?
So I don't really know what kind of possessed him. I always, when I come into work, I would get there early, so I was always reading. So that was just how I passed the time. I always had my Kindle, and I would probably go through and read a book. Probably take about a day or two, and I'd be on to the next one. And every time he'd see me, he's like, "So what are you reading today?" And I would tell
Right,
him about the books,
right.
and then he would just, "You should write a book."
Okay. I guess he saw something in you. Now,
I guess he did, because yeah, I would have never done it if I had never met him.
I
I
guess,
wholeheartedly
I guess
believe
so.
I never would have wrote this book if I never met him.
All right, all right. Well, we're going to get to that book, and you're going to tell me all about it. But first, I want to know, how did the idea of this one book, the story, pop into your head? Tell us that day or that moment.
Okay, so I grew up. Halloween's always been my favorite holiday. I've always had an affinity for vampires. So my one of my earliest movies that I've ever watched was Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I thought Gary Oldman was just the sexiest thing in the world. And then I started watching Lost Boys, so I kind of always had this affinity and this love of vampires, but it always kind of bothered me growing up in a pseudo religious household, and knowing that vampires and Halloween is supposed to be this evil time or whatever. So it kind of gave me a slight complex as to what does that make me like? Am I an evil person because I gravitate toward these things that are supposed to be dark and bad? And so as a kid, I was always in the library. So if I didn't understand something, I would go to the library and learn about it. So I learned about Halloween and realized, that it was based off of the Mexican Day of the Dead, and that it wasn't necessarily meant to be an evil holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of got in my head and kind of worked with it. And I was like, well, why does vampires have to be bad? So I kind of always had this idea that that's just the one story that we've been told, and it's the story that everybody's lived with, but it doesn't have to be that way. So when the idea to write the book popped in my head, I was like, I want to change the narrative of what it is to be a vampire. So even though they do evil and dark things, it's not intended on who they were. It's just one of the many stories that we hear about them and that we choose to listen to.
Okay. All right. Well, that's quite the thing to pop into your head. I guess the fellow there who told you should write a book, you got right to work. And how long did it take for you between him telling you should write a book and then this idea pops into your head? How long did that take?
The first initial time when he started to think I should write a book,
yeah,
it took me probably about 6 months before it finally clicked. And then when I started actually writing the book, I wrote the book in about 1.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it literally engulfed my life. That's pretty much all I did every second of the day. Anytime that I was free, I was writing. Even when I was at work, I carried a little notepad with me, and I would be talking to people, and ideas would spark, and I was just like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let me write that down." And I was always working on it. So it was a quick labor of love.
Yeah. Where does the cover come from?
The cover is an image of the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's actually a photo that my cousin took. He lives in uptown Charlotte in one of the condominiums uptown, and he took the photo from his balcony.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So how did you go about publishing this? Was it self-published, or did you go through a publishing company?
I went through a publishing company, so I went through Darn's Publishing. I was planning on to do it completely all self-published. I have another cousin who actually wrote some children's books, and so he got me turned on to Ingram Sparks, and I watched all their videos and kind of went through their whole process to learn how to publish a book and everything that I needed to do. I had went ahead and got my own copyright done for the book prior to even thinking about shopping it around to see if anybody would even try to publish it. And Darn's actually reached out to me, I think, from the copyright, and they was like, "We see you have a book, and we would like to publish it." Okay. So I was like, "Sure," because at the time before that, I was planning on it living under my bed forever.
Well, shall we get to the meat of the matter? The book is called
Sure.
Dark Obsessions. You said a few things about it already. Tell us more.
So it's about a vampire named Cairo who has been sent out to go find a new playground for him, as well as the other vampire that is mentioned in the book, Malachi. So he's come to Charlotte. It's a new city. It's away from the Council of Truth Seekers. It's this organization whose main goal is to rid the world of all of these evil creatures and keep them in secret. So they find out, that they're not in Charlotte, and they're looking for this new playground. So Cairo comes, and he is met with this energy that he's never felt before. So immediately he knows there's something different about the city, and he's very much drawn to it, and he can't leave until he knows why he's drawn to this city. And he ends up meeting Skylar, and they find out they have this connection, and he's intent to treat her like all of his other little victims are his little mice that he likes to call them. So
Yeah.
Cairo's very much into torture and a lot of the dark things. And he's very much intending to do the same things to Skylar. But the moment that he takes her, he's overwhelmed by the connection that they have and all of the things that he wants to do. He was like, he gets to a point where he would very much protect her from all of that. So he's like, how can I do all of this stuff to her if I will not allow someone else to hurt her in this kind of way?
Yeah.
So it kind of follows their love story as their connection grows, and he changes.
That's sweet. Yeah. Do you have a message anywhere here? And
well, yeah, it's kind of a display on, like I said before, like the vampires, that they're not, the evil that they do is not necessarily who or what they have done. So Cairo was inflicted with this evil through Malachi. Malachi was inflicted with this evil by it's something that happened many, 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 many years ago in his life. So it's displaying this idea that we as a society, as a people, can create our own monsters by the way we treat them. Yeah. So he was basically saw this evil, and then this idea that he was an evil person stuck with him. So that was kind of the way he was categorized as, you're a monster, you're evil, you're a monster, you're evil. And so he decides to wear that quote unquote badge of honor, so to speak, and he chooses to be evil, and then he raises Cairo into that same evilness, and Cairo is then met with this choice of, does he stay the same that he's been for the last 300 years, or do he change to be something better for Skylar, because she brings this light out of him that he had prior to Malachi inflecting his life.
What can these vampires do? What are some of the skills that sets them apart from human beings?
Well, they have the power to compel humans to do what they want. They're pseudo shapeshifters, so Malachi and Cairo both can shift to vapor. They're superhuman strength. They have speed. So they have a lot of abilities that humans don't have.
Okay, yeah, it's important stuff, because then you can really write those dramatic scenes a whole lot more, right?
Yes.
What was it like writing a book for you? Like sitting down, I guess you're at a computer and you got these ideas. Was it a struggle at first, or did you just blow off the pages?
Surprisingly, no. I thought that it would be more of a struggle. I actually started very old school when I was writing it. So I grabbed a pen and a 5-subject notebook and just kind of went pen and paper and was writing it. That's kind of what got me into, maybe I can do this, because I had written about 7 chapters in that 5-subject notebook pretty quickly, pretty easy. And I was like, maybe I should type it to see what happens. So bought a computer, ended up going in, typing it. Story changed from what I had written and the notebook into what I was typing on the computer. And it just kind of developed on its own, and it was just super easy, super fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. It literally took up my entire life. Like,
of course.
I would sit there and just read and be like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. Maybe I should go grab food. Let me go use the bathroom. I had a very unconventional desk. So I wrote it. I had my computer stacked on 2 of my nephew's board games, and I would sit on my bed because I didn't have a formal desk. I didn't have a formal writing area. So I like to joke around and say that I wrote a book on top of perfection and Don't Break the Ice.
That's funny. That's great. That's great. Wow. And then you had your first draft. I guess, did you go through it a couple of times before sending it out for editing?
Yes. So I went through it, had stumbled onto this one publisher who were looking for more minority written genres and sci-fi stuff. So I kind of reached out and sent it out to them. It wasn't a good fit for them. And then I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it myself, and had a friend go through who was an editor, edited it and did everything, did a full basic rewrite after she edited and kind of went through it and redid it and had her edit it again. And then I was just like, gonna go try and see what happens.
Writing is a tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So, the obsessions part of the title, does that refer to the change of heart that he has for his female vampire that he wants to protect now? He's sort of obsessed with that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, it's a little bit of that. It's also a little bit of his obsession with her. So when he meets her and kind of sees her for the first time, he becomes possessive of her almost. And even though he's never met her, not talked to her, the minute that he sees her, because so when he comes to Charlotte, he ends up buying a club. So he sees her at the bar of his club, and the minute that he sees her, he's like, she's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knows at that point that he's going to take her. And like I said, he is intent to do all of these unsavory things with her, but like he's intent to hear all of her screams, her
Right.
screams of pain, her screams of pleasure. He's going to keep her. That is
Yeah.
his end game.
Good. Good. Does it leave it open for a sequel or perhaps make a series of this? Have you got the bug for writing now? You want to get back to doing some more?
Yes, I have actually, literally 2 days ago, sent book two to the publisher to get it in the works now. So I'm thinking it's going to be at least a 3-part trilogy, with Cairo and Skylar, and then I may write 2 spinoffs. So there's another character in the novel, Malachi. So his story is going to kind of run parallel to Cairo's and Skylar's. So I'm thinking about doing his story, and Skylar's best friend Angelina meets a set of wolves in the second book, and I'm thinking about doing their story as well.
Yep, you got the bug. You got
So
the bug.
all this from a person that's not a writer.
That's right. That's right. Too late now. Well, I started writing when I was what, 62 or something. Yeah. So
Hmm,
you look a lot younger than that. So you got a lot way to go,
just a
lot
little
more.
bit, not much.
Excellent. I'm really really pleased for you. And when was this published?
It was published in June of 2022, I believe.
Okay.
It seems like it's been so long ago, but yeah, it came out right after I published everything, got it done right before COVID, and it came out, I think, yeah, in June of 22.
Okay. Okay. And how are sales for you for this book? I see you won an award.
They're good. Like they're slow, a bit slow online. I do really well when I'm out in public and I do pop-up events. So people like vampires.
You know, I saw I was going through, I forget, I just put your name in Google and all kinds of stuff comes up with you, and I was glad because I like that. And you are quite busy. You're out there doing book fairs and signings and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, I try to keep it as visible as I can because, well, I know one of the things with it being online, it's the price, because compared to some of the other books, it is pricey. So I know, even I look at myself as a reader, like I'll tend to gravitate to the books that I can read for free if I'm reading from a new author or someone that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
So the online sales aren't there, but I figure if I can reach the people eventually, and then they'll do the reviews, and it'll
That's the way
eventually
it
get where it
works.
needs to be.
All the
Yeah,
pros say that's the way it works. You got to
yeah.
get out there and just do all the legwork for sure. Now, I also found something interesting, and I'm sure it's pretty common, but first time I've seen it on Goodreads. They have something ask the author, and you were asked a few questions, and then you answered them. That's pretty cool. What was that like?
That was kind of fun. It was good, just always to hear people's thoughts and how things that they question. It helps me actually to do the second book. So a lot of
Yeah,
those questions and things, like if people maybe made me feel like I didn't detail something in the first book, it helped me to I feel make the second book even better.
cool. Of course. Yeah. How about we have you do a sort of an elevator pitch here? You know, the put you full frame, and then you tell the people why they should buy this book, and maybe it'd be a good summer read. I know we're going into winter right now, but
Going into it.
but it'll be summer in Australia. Yeah, so most
Ah,
people, yeah, yeah. Why don't you give us a pitch?
okay. Grab a copy of. So this is my book, Dark Obsessions. It's about a 300-year-old vampire named Cairo as he comes to Charlotte, North Carolina, looking for his newest little victim, his next little mouse, Skylar. And then when he takes her, he's not able to do all of these unsavory things to her, and he actually then wants to be with her and kind of fall in love with her and see where their lives go. So it is a dark romantic tale, but at the end of the day, at the heart of this book, it is all about love. So if you are a romantic at heart, it will pull at those heartstrings. If you are looking for something that's a little bit different, a little bit has some darkness to it, you will get all of that in this book. It's a great tale of this whole age-old idea of light versus dark. So you will see that when it comes to Cairo, the light in him is still there, even if he's hell-bent on being this dark, evil creature. But at the end of the day, light wins out, love conquers all, and you will fall in love, hopefully, with him and Skylar, and they'll be your newest adult version of Twilight, is what I like to consider them at. So if you like Twilight, I think you will enjoy this book. It has a little bit more darkness to it, but you still get that same love, that same vibe.
A really nice concept. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, I mean, now that you're going to be writing a trilogy and you got the bug, you're going to have to come back on next season or whatever. Or you call me up and we'll have you back on the show. You can talk about your second book and third book.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun
Definitely
having
would
you
love
on.
to.
Okay. Super. All right, Delphine, it's been a great pleasure speaking with you and hearing you talk about your book.
Well, I'm glad that you had me. I would love to be on again.
All right. Anytime, you're welcome. You take care now. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, and if you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then I invite you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment if you wish. And if you are an author, I would sure love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing, and remember to be kind to one another.